Okay, folks, I have been trying to do some custom fitting to some folks' sight hoods, and I have found that evidently in some of the manufacturing plants, this particular hood has a star on the action side of the sight hood. Just the standard vertical chisel punch marks on the muzzle end of the hood. This particular one is an extremely tight bore for the sight post. It's an undersized flare and a tight bore. And if you happen to have one like this, you have two options. If you have the means, remove your sight hood before ordering a post. Take the post out, measure. Take it to a friend if you don't have the means. Measure the shoulder, the little 1/4 inch larger area just below the post. Let's turn this up in its right position. This is the way it sets in the sight hood. You'll have a section that usually measures around 85 thousandths in that neighborhood, and you'll have about a 1/4 inch area of a little thicker area. This particular one measures 97.5 thousandths, almost 1/10 of an inch. Now that is undersized. Most of these measure larger than that. All the ones I've seen to date, and I've seen about 50 of these, measure about 0.101 inches. Now, I'm going to continue manufacturing these at that size. What would happen if I measured them all, if I manufactured these all for the smaller bore, the majority of the guns that do have the standard bore or the larger bore, whatever the case may be, the smaller shoulders on these posts would just wobble in there, and that's not a good thing for precision shooting. So, if you just order one, you don't give me any details on your order, I'm going to ship you a standard shouldered post, standard flare, and you'll have this happen. You try to drop it in, and it will not go. You'll try to tap on it, and again, gently. You don't want to damage the flare. You'll try to tap on it. It won't go in. If you want to do this yourself, chuck that up about 2/3 of the way up the post itself, the skinniest portion. Check that up in a drill so that basically you have it sticking out of a drill chuck, and I'll just use some needle nose pliers as an example. Chuck it up so that it's sticking out of a drill chuck about like that. Go ahead and turn your drill on, and probably the highest speed it can run is best, and lay your file on it on the side where the surface is turning back towards the handle of the file so that you're cutting. Lay your file on there very gently, flat, and dress that down. That's going to be your most accurate way to do it. Kind of watch what you're doing, make sure you're taking it down evenly, square. And after each little bit of filings that you get off there, you'll just get a little bit of metal dust off there. Test fit it again. Now on this particular one, the flare is also undersized. The flare is much smaller than the other 49 guns that I've fitted. This particular flare runs 0.125, which is exactly an 1/8 inch. Most of the other rifles that I've worked with, the flares are running 140, 135, 140. A little over an 1/8 inch. This is what I see typically. This is what we have on this unusual variation. So, again, these things were made during wartime. They were making these by the millions. They were cranking them out. If a cutter for boring these hood sight post bores, if a cutter got a little dull and started cutting undersized, they just drove these things home, or they dressed their post down. They didn't go back and remill these things. They had a bad batch. So Other option, like I said, is to measure that shoulder, measure that flare diameter, and I will custom cut you one at no additional charge before I ship it to you. If you do happen to get that, you don't want to get that standard post, and you don't want to mess with trying to dress it down, mail it back to me for the cost of a stamp. Just put it in an envelope, and I will cut you one undersized to match that one. I'll mail it back to you, and we'll see if we can get it fit for you. But it'd really be best to find a neighbor and have him measure that so I can make it to exact specifications. You don't really want that wobbling around in that sight hood too terribly much. There's ways to fix that too if you do run into that. If you happen to have the opposite, it's extremely oversized bore, and the standard sight post, let's say I had that fully inserted in there and it wobbled around like that, you would not want that. Now this one's not fully seated. There's no way to get these standard posts in this hood without working them down a little bit smaller in diameter. But let's say you happen to have that fully seated and it was like that. There's some ways to fix that. I use some very fine wire. If you don't have some very fine soft annealed wire, you can take the wire out of the inside of a bread tie and you can wrap a few pieces around the shoulder of the post just below the flare. Make sure you have it all snug on there, not a piece sticking out. You can press it back down in there and tap it, and that will mold just like a piece of soft lead. That soft annealed wire from a bread tie will mold, flatten out in there, and it'll completely fill that void in there. And once you get that seated down to the bottom of the flare, that post will be just as snug as a bug in a rug. Alright, you can find me on Craigslist in the Joplin, Missouri area. Look under Mosin Sight Post, again Joplin, Missouri area. You can find me on eBay, and be glad to help you out on getting your Mosin to shoot right on target.